Welcome back to Turkish series Stars, the corner of the internet where hearts are heard, stories are felt, and truth is handled with tenderness. If you believe that love, even when tested by loss, can still glow with grace, then you've found your place. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, consider pressing join to support our growing family, and leave a like if you think kindness can stitch up the deepest cuts. The set lights were cooling, the hum of the crew easing into silence, when Baris stepped forward with that quiet, unforced smile everyone recognizes. After a long day of shooting a commercial, he faced the microphones with the calm of someone who has weathered more than one storm. His eyes, gently rimmed with fatigue yet vivid with clarity, met the crowd without defensiveness. He'd been in the spotlight lately not for a new project, but because of that hushed, complicated ache that follows a breakup. And yet, when others might have retreated or lashed out, Baris chose something rarer: generosity, gratitude, and respect that pointed away from himself. A reporter asked what everyone had been wondering, letting the question hang in the air. "How is your heart doing, Baris?" He glanced down, took a breath, and answered in a voice soft enough to be intimate but strong enough to be heard. He said that some wounds don't need loud explanations, only time and a bit of gentleness. The words were modest, but they carried a private weight, as if each syllable had been thought over in a quiet room. What came after, though, shifted the atmosphere entirely. He began to speak about a love story that the public had watched with fascination, a story both on screen and off. He spoke of Yağmur and himself, not out of pride, but as if he were placing a bouquet on an altar of memories. What people saw wasn't a performance stitched together from pretty angles, he said, voice steady, wistful. There is an ease in the way Yağmur and I meet each other's eyes, a rhythm you don't invent. A friendship that turned into something living, something many of you felt along with us. We may have our distance now, but what we built wasn't pretend. It was honest. The clip spread like wildfire. Within hours, fans filled social media with messages that admired his composure as much as his sentiment. Many wrote that it takes courage to speak kindly about a love that has changed shape. Others praised how he didn't compete with the gossip cycle, he rose above it, turning the moment into a quiet salute to sincerity. If heartfelt stories and real human nuance move you like they move us, don't forget to hit subscribe to Turkish series Stars. Your likes, your comments, and your presence keep this space breathing with warmth. People close to him say that lately, in the quiet after the cameras, Baris has chosen reflection over spectacle. He's kept a modest profile, spending time alone not to nurse bitterness, but to listen inward. The solitude, they say, has been less a retreat and more a recalibration. He has confided to friends that when someone has known love for what it really is, faith in it doesn't disappear, it widens. He finds himself recognizing love in small gestures on the street, in stories told by friends, in the way strangers laugh together on a bench. During the interview, that perspective came through like morning light. He didn't sound like a man picking at the past. He sounded like someone who had held love, lost his grasp, and still believed in its luminous nature. He elaborated without melodrama. Love, he said, teaches you to root for love anywhere you see it, especially when it belongs to another. When he spoke of the days with Yağmur, he did not turn them into a pedestal nor reduce them to a cautionary tale. Their hugs, their smiles, the unplanned moments they shared on and off set, those weren't staged. That was a bond people recognized because it reflected something true. The internet responded with the kind of hush that follows a resonant chord. Commenters echoed that he wasn't merely talking, he was feeling out loud, and somehow everyone listening felt with him. Headlines the next morning captured it with unusual tenderness, a leading man transforming heartbreak into a kind of grace, a public figure refusing to perform despair or triumph, choosing instead to honor what was real. Journalists, often running after shocks and scandals, described his expression as a blend of ache and hope. One noted how he paused between sentences, glancing somewhere far away, as if revisiting memories but no longer burning his hands on them. What made the moment stand apart wasn't only that he praised a bond that had shifted, it was the quiet rebellion of kindness itself. In a field driven by competition, envy, and the restless chase for relevance, Baris chose empathy. He reminded everyone watching that softness is not weakness, it's a strength that outlasts trends. Behind the lens, friends say, he's been rediscovering old parts of himself. He's reading in the mornings, writing late into the night, and walking along the sea where the wind makes its own kind of music. He speaks of love now as a language to understand rather than a prize to win. Perhaps that's why his words about what he shared with Yağmur carried such depth, they sounded like reflections from a man rebuilding inwardly. The tone was never desperate, never pleading for a reunion, just honoring what had been and accepting what is. It felt like watching someone choose to grow, even when growing hurts. When Yağmur Yüksel heard about his remarks, those close to her say she was moved. She let it be known through trusted friends that she felt grateful for the tenderness and the fairness in his tone. No barbs, no barbed wire, just a sincere acknowledgement of a real chapter in both their lives. Later, Baris added a brief follow-up on social media, clarifying that love, even when it changes form, remains a teacher. He thanked everyone for the empathy they'd extended to both of them and wished that all love stories, public or private, receive the gentleness they deserve. It was as if their responses completed a circle, two people who may be walking different paths now, but who refuse to let the narrative of their journey be written in cruelty. What do you think, dear viewers? Can heartbreak polish our compassion instead of dulling it? Have you ever found yourself applauding someone else's happiness while tending to your own healing? Share your thoughts below, we read them, we feel them, and we grow with them. And while you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you'd like to go a step further, tap join to support Turkish series stars. Your presence keeps this community of honest storytelling alive. As the day of the interview drew to a close, Baris slipped his hands into his pockets and turned to leave. But before taking those last few steps, he looked back at the small crowd and offered a parting line in a voice barely louder than a whisper, "Keep your faith in love. It changes, it bends, it sometimes breaks, but the essence of it remains." By morning, that thought was everywhere, quoted, shared, and tucked into captions like a keepsake. It wasn't just a celebrity reflecting on private sorrow, it sounded like a simple truth anyone could understand. Every so often, a moment arrives that reminds us what being human can still look like, unguarded, tender, unmistakably real. That day, Baris gave us such a moment, and many found themselves exhaling a breath they didn't know they'd been holding. The noise of scandal was replaced, if only briefly, by a hush of recognition that love is not diminished by endings when it is treated with respect. There were more details in the days that followed, quiet ones that never made screaming headlines but mattered anyway. A friend saw him at a seaside cafe with a notebook, sketching words that looked like scenes without stages. Someone else noticed him pausing on a promenade, watching children chase gulls, smiling in that way people smile when memory and hope collide without bruising. He's been telling those close to him that he's learning to admire joy wherever it lives, not because he's above pain, but because pain, when met gently, expands the heart's capacity rather than shrinking it. He refuses to let bitterness shape his story, choosing instead to weave patience into each new day. And then there's the way the public has rallied around both Baris and Yağmur, refusing to villainize either one. The comment sections began to feel like living rooms instead of courtrooms, people sharing their own versions of loving well, losing well, and moving forward with dignity. Some recalled the early days when their on-screen chemistry spilled into real life, how those small glances and unscripted laughs felt like a secret everyone was invited to witness. Others focused on the present, praising the way both have handled the complexity with silence where silence was kinder, and words where words could heal. It's not often that a love story, under such bright lights, exits a stage without a chorus of blame. This time, it felt different. Reporters who caught up with him later asked whether he regretted speaking so openly. He shook his head gently. He said he believes that telling the truth softly is never a mistake, especially when the truth is this: a sincere connection doesn't turn counterfeit because it evolves. It remains a chapter you carry without apologizing for it. If anything, he added, It gives you a better compass for the love you are still capable of offering in the future. He acknowledged that there are days when the quiet is too loud, but on most days, the quiet is where he hears himself best. There were whispers that he has been carefully choosing his next roles, leaning into stories that explore nuance over spectacle. Scripts that explore the landscapes inside a person rather than just the vistas outside. Friends say he has been gravitating toward characters who struggle without losing their tenderness, roles that let him pour what he has learned back into the work. Maybe that's the most eloquent response to heartbreak. Not a performative statement, but an intentional life. Meanwhile, those close to Yağmur have shared that she too is finding her pace, surrounded by friends who know when to talk and when to simply sit beside her. She has been reading poetry, they say, and visiting old neighborhoods that remind her how far she has come. She offered quiet thanks to fans who, instead of demanding explanations, sent small notes of care. In an era when everyone wants a confession, she gave something braver, dignity. And you, watching from wherever you are, does this resonate? Is there a chapter in your own story that you honor without clinging to it? If so, tell us below. This channel has always been a conversation, not just a broadcast, and your voice makes it whole. If this touched you, please like the video, subscribe, and if you can, tap join to support Turkish series stars. You help keep a space like this possible, one where we treat people as people, not headlines. As twilight settled on that interview day, a last camera flash sparked and faded. Baris took one step, then another, the weight of attention already lifting from his shoulders. He turned his head just enough for one more sentence, a closing gift to anyone who might need it. Hold on to the belief that love remains, even when its shape shifts. It may ask for patience, it may ask for courage, but it never asks you to harden. The line wasn't scripted, but it sounded like a final scene. A gentle curtain fall on a moment that surprised even those who have seen everything. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Here, we don't just trace the arc of fame, we listen for the heartbeat underneath. Thank you for spending this time with us, for choosing tenderness over noise, and for reminding us that compassion still trends. Don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment, and press join if you want to help us continue making room for stories told with care. Until the next chapter, keep believing, keep feeling, and above all, keep loving. This is Turkish series stars, signing off with gratitude and warmth.